The emergency department breathed the way it always did after midnight. Slow, mechanical, tired. Fluorescent lights hummed above polished floors scarred by years of gurney wheels. Monitors blinked in steady, indifferent rhythms. Somewhere down the hall, a television murmured to an empty waiting room, its volume too low to follow, too loud to ignore. She worked triage without drawing attention. Her badge read registered nurse. No additional titles. No pins. The lanyard was short, clipped so it would not swing or catch. Sleeves rolled evenly to mid-forearm. Shoes clean, practical, quiet. She checked vitals, asked questions, entered data. Calm voice, minimal words. Patients answered her without resistance, as if her stillness invited honesty. A middle-aged man with chest pain watched her hands as she placed leads across his skin. They were steady, not rigid, not rehearsed, just steady. Breathe normally, she said. He did. Across the department, a resident murmured an argument about bed availability. A security guard leaned against the wall near the ambulance bay doors, radio clipped to his shoulder, phone in his hand. Another nurse laughed softly at something on a tablet. No one looked at her. She noticed everything anyway. The camera feed above the ambulance bay stuttered, just a fraction of a second, then resumed. The automatic doors hesitated before opening for an incoming stretcher. The security radio emitted a faint hiss, then went quiet. She logged none of it. She finished with the patient and stepped back to give the physician space. When the physician asked for labs, she already had the kit ready. Left arm, she said. The physician nodded without thinking. She moved through the department, the way water moved, around obstacles, not through them. She restocked supplies before anyone asked, adjusted lighting when anxiety rose, shifted chairs, lowered voices, widened pathways, control without command. A minor trauma alert came in, motor vehicle collision, 2 patients. Stable, she prepared the bay without being assigned. Another nurse glanced at her. You don't have to do that. They're not even here yet. They will be, she replied. No challenge in her tone, just certainty. The ambulance arrived 4 minutes later. The shift supervisor frowned at the staffing board and muttered about calling someone in. She did not notice that the board had already been adjusted, the workload quietly balanced. No one questioned it because nothing went wrong. That was how it always worked. At the medication cart, she scanned inventory by sight. 1 vial was rotated incorrectly. Not missing, just wrong. She corrected it. Her reflection in the stainless steel was faint and distorted. Tired eyes, neutral expression, no visible scars above the collar. A stretcher rolled past, 1 wheel squealing slightly. The sound bothered her, not the noise but the uneven cadence. She stopped the transporter. That wheel's catching. It's fine, he said. She crouched, pressed once near the axle, and stood. The squeal stopped. How did you... debris? She said, already moving on. At 12:47 a.m., the overhead speakers crackled. Not an announcement, just a brief pulse of feedback. She stopped walking. So did an older anesthesiologist down the hall. He frowned, listening. The sound passed. She resumed moving. At the nurse's station, a junior nurse whispered, You ever think nights are worse than days? They show more, she replied. Show more what? She didn't answer. Her charting was precise. Exact timestamps, objective language, no assumptions, everything written as if it might be examined later. She closed a chart and glanced at the security desk. The guard's phone was gone now. He was staring at his radio, tapping it once, then again. She watched his hands. They lacked confidence. She passed him, slowed just enough to hear the static hiss faintly. Battery? He asked. Signal, she said. Not the same thing. What? She was already walking away. At 12:53 a.m., the ambulance bay doors opened without an incoming patient. No call, no alert. She felt it more than she saw it, the pressure shift, the wrongness of motion without cause. She did not alert anyone, not yet. She stepped into an empty trauma bay and moved the gurney 6 inches to the left. She shifted a supply cart closer to the wall. She checked the crash cart seal, pressing firmly to ensure it would brake cleanly. Her hands were quiet, her breathing steady. Whatever was coming had not arrived yet. But it was close. The department did not change all at once. Small things failed first. The wall clock ticked louder than usual. The air handler near Trauma 2 cycled too early. A call light blinked without being pressed. At 1:02 a.m., An ambulance checked in from 3 miles out, then went silent. She marked the time. A resident approached her station. "Do you know if Bay 4 is clear? The board says it is." "It is," she said. "For 8 minutes. How do you know that?" "Because it will be full at 1:10. He laughed uncertainly and walked away. At 1:07, Bay 4 filled. She adjusted her movement, staying near walls, keeping sight lines open without appearing to watch. Shoulders relaxed, chin level. She covered a break near the ambulance bay doors. Hospitals always made noise if you listened. Pipes, elevators, doors. Tonight, the rhythm was wrong. The camera feed froze again. 3 seconds this time. 3 seconds mattered. Security still had not reported the radio failure. Paperwork delayed honesty. She brushed the edge of the medication cart as she passed, a grounding habit she had not used in years. At 1:11 a.m. the ambulance bay doors opened again. No stretcher. Cold air entered, smelling of rain and diesel. Conversations softened. Not stopped, just lowered. "Did someone call a rig?" a nurse asked. "No," someone answered. The doors closed. She exhaled slowly. She shifted patient flow quietly. Redirected one non-critical case. Moved another closer to imaging. Space opened. Lines cleared. Security cleared his throat. "Anyone else having radio trouble?" She took the radio, pressed transmit for exactly 2 seconds. Static answered. Patterned. She handed it back. "Keep your phone off silent. Stay here." "Why?" "In case someone needs you." At 1:14 a.m. the overhead paging system chirped. Not a code, just a tone. Her jaw tightened. That system did not chirp without cause. She positioned herself between trauma 1 and 2. From there, S. He could see the ambulance bay, the main entrance, and the corridor leading deeper into the hospital. 3 vectors. She counted distances. A physician brushed past. "You're blocking the hall." She stepped aside. "Sorry." Inside, pressure mounted. The silent ambulance reappeared on the board. Status, delayed, no reason. Too many failures. Too evenly spaced. Someone was testing the edges. At 1:18 a.m. the security desk phone rang. The guard listened, then went pale. He looked at her without knowing why. She was already moving. She did not run. She never ran unless there was nowhere else to go. She walked toward the ambulance bay as raised voices echoed down the corridor. Not screams, not yet, but close. The first scream came from outside. High. Panicked. Cut short. The ambulance bay doors slammed open. A man stumbled inside, bleeding from the scalp, eyes wide, mouth working without sound. Behind him, another figure collapsed against the wall. Security froze. Doctors hesitated. No one was in charge. She stepped forward. "Lock internal doors," she said calmly, "not the main entrance." The charge nurse blinked. "What? Now?" The nurse moved. She pointed. "Trauma 1. Clear it. Trauma 2 stays open. Why? Because Trauma 1 has no exterior wall exposure." No one argued. Glass shattered outside. A second scream followed, closer. She took the security guard's arm and moved him 3 feet to the right. "Stay here. Watch that door. If it opens again, announce it." "With what?" he asked. "Your voice." He nodded. She pressed the crash cart seal. It broke cleanly. Good. A man burst through the ambulance bay doors, not injured, not staff. He was running from something. She stepped into his path, hand raised, not to stop him, but to redirect. "Left," she said. He turned without thinking. Behind him, shouting, heavy footsteps, the sound of something metallic hitting concrete. Her heart rate rose slightly. Controlled. She raised her voice for the first time. "Trauma activation. External threat. Keep patients in rooms." The words were medical, familiar, safe. People obeyed. Another figure appeared in the bay, this one armed. Security reached for his radio. She shook her head once. "No," she said. The guard froze. The armed man scanned the room, breathing hard, eyes wild. He had not expected resistance. She met his gaze briefly, not with challenge, but assessment. He saw a nurse. That was his mistake. "Sir," she said evenly, "you need to leave." He laughed. She took 1 step back, angling him away from the main corridor, toward reinforced doors. Doctors moved patients without being told. A monitor alarm sounded. Steady, ignored. The man raised his weapon. She did not flinch. "Stop," she said, not loud, precise. Behind her, the doors sealed. The ER narrowed. Her voice cut through the chaos, calm and unmistakable. "Perimeter protocol," she said. "Sector Alpha. Medical control." People moved. They did not know why. only that they should. The sound of the weapon being raised did not echo the way movies suggested. It was dull, mechanical, close. The man's hands shook, not from fear but from adrenaline burning itself out too quickly. His eyes kept moving, darting from face to face, looking for resistance, looking for permission. He found neither. She held his gaze just long enough to read him. Not trained, not disciplined, reactive, dangerous, but not tactical. Behind her, the emergency department shifted without noise. Doors closed softly, curtains drew, gurneys rolled into safer angles, staff clustered where walls were thickest, instinctively following the geometry she had already shaped. "Put it down," she said, not pleading, not commanding, factual. He laughed again, louder this time. "You think I won't?" "I think you don't know where you are," she replied. His jaw tightened. She took another step back, subtle, guiding his line of movement away from the patient corridors and toward the ambulance bay wall. Her body language said retreat. Her foot placement said control. Security stood frozen, watching her, watching the weapon. The charge nurse whispered, "Should I call?" "Not yet," she said without turning. The man's attention snapped to the voice behind him. He spun halfway, weapon following. She moved then, not fast, precise. She stepped inside his line of fire, deflecting the barrel with the heel of her hand, redirecting it toward the concrete wall. The discharge cracked the air, deafening in the enclosed space, the round burying itself harmlessly into reinforced masonry. Patience screamed. She drove her shoulder into his chest, off-balancing him just enough to force him back through the ambulance bay doors. Rain soaked her scrubs instantly. The weapon clattered across the ground. He fell hard, stunned, breath knocked from him. She did not pursue. She stepped back inside and slammed the door shut. Silence followed. Thick, pressurized, no one spoke. She bent, picked up the dropped weapon with a gloved hand, checked it without ceremony, and slid it into a locked cabinet behind the security desk. Then she turned. "Trauma team," she said calmly. "You're back online. Treat the injured outside as hostile adjacent until cleared," someone asked. "Who cleared?" She looked at them. The question died. She moved to the wounded man who had collapsed earlier. Blood pooled beneath his head. His breathing was shallow. "Kneel," she told the nearest resident. The resident obeyed. She applied pressure, assessed pupils, airway, hemorrhage. Her hands moved with clinical efficiency, but her eyes stayed up, tracking movement through glass and reflections. Another crash echoed from outside. Shouting, multiple voices now. This was not a lone incident. She felt it settle in her chest, the certainty she had been avoiding. The hospital was being used. "Lock the skybridge," she said. The facilities manager hesitated. "That needs admin approval. It needs 30 seconds, she replied. He moved. She stepped into the central corridor and raised her voice, not loud, but carrying. "All staff stay with patients. Do not investigate noises. Do not leave rooms unless instructed." Her words anchored them. The overhead paging system chirped again. This time, she answered it. "Medical control to security," she said into the microphone. "Acknowledge perimeter breach." There was no response. She nodded to herself. She moved to the stairwell door and tested it. Locked. "Good." A doctor approached her, voice low. "Who are you?" She did not answer. Instead, she asked, "How many critical patients are non-ambulatory?" 6, he said automatically. "Move 3 to imaging holding. Keep 3 where they are. Assign your calmest nurses." He stared at her. "You're not—" "I know," she said. "That was all." A second armed figure appeared briefly through the ambulance bay glass, then disappeared again. Someone shouted outside. A vehicle engine revved, then cut. This was coordinated. Poorly, but coordinated. She adjusted. "Charge," she said quietly. "Divide the department into zones. Color code them on the board. On what authority?" She met the charge nurse's eyes. On patient safety, the board changed. Zones appeared. Movement became intentional. She walked the perimeter, checking doors, counting steps, marking blind spots. Her mind ran numbers she had not used in years. Distances, angles, response times. A nurse followed her. "You're bleeding." She looked down. Blood soaked her sleeve, not her own. She wiped it off without concern. "I need why—" "Oh, to do something," she told the nurse. "And I need you not to ask why." The nurse nodded immediately. "Good." Another gunshot sounded outside. Farther away this time. Sirens approached in the distance. Too slow. She stopped at the security desk and picked up the phone. dialed an internal number from memory. The line rang once, then clicked. "This is medical," she said. "We have an active external threat exploiting hospital access points." A pause, then a voice, older, careful. "Who is this?" She hesitated for the first time. "Then, you can verify my credentials later," she said. "Right now I need jurisdictional coordination and controlled response." Silence. "Then stand by." She hung up. The guard watched her with something like awe. They listened. "They usually do," she replied. A loud bang shook the building. Dust fell from the ceiling near the ambulance bay. Something heavy had hit the exterior doors. "They're trying to get back in," someone said. She nodded. "They won't." She moved to the trauma bay and pulled a curtain aside. A young woman lay on the bed, terrified, clutching a blanket. The woman whispered, "Am I going to die?" She placed a hand on her shoulder. "No," she said. "Stay here. Breathe when I tell you." The woman followed her instructions exactly. She stepped back into the corridor. The facilities manager returned. "Skybridge is locked." "Good. Shut down non-essential elevators. That'll trap people." "Yes," she said. "Safely." Another crash outside. "Closer." She raised her voice again. "Security doors to reinforced mode. Those require..." Now, they sealed. The emergency department became something else. Not a place of panic. A controlled space. A perimeter. The armed men outside tried again. The doors held. One of them fired blindly through glass. The rounds spiderwebbed the surface, but did not penetrate. She counted shots. 3, 4, 5. Then silence. She waited. Her breathing slowed. The silence broke with shouting. Angry now, disorganized. They were losing momentum. She turned to the charge nurse. "Prepare for law enforcement entry. They will be late and aggressive." "How do you know?" "Because they always are." The first police vehicles arrived 7 minutes later. They did not enter immediately. She watched their lights through the glass, refracted, distant. She stepped to the entrance and raised both hands, visible when they finally approached. A megaphone crackled. "This is police. Identify yourself." She spoke clearly. "Registered nurse, acting medical control. External threat contained at perimeter." A pause. Then, "Who authorized you?" She smiled faintly. "No one," she said. "But patients are alive." The doors opened. Officers entered, weapons raised, eyes scanning. She guided them wordlessly, pointing, redirecting, never obstructing. They followed her. By the time the last suspect was detained outside, the hospital was intact. No patients dead, minimal injuries. The ER slowly exhaled. An officer approached her. "Ma'am, we're going to need a statement," she nodded. "After my shift." He hesitated. "Who trained you?" She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "Medical school teaches a lot more than anatomy."
He did not press.
She returned to triage, finished charting, washed the blood from her hands. At 6:58 a.m. she clocked out. No announcement followed her. No one clapped. She walked past T. He ambulance bay one last time. The doors opened normally, as if nothing had happened. Morning began the way it always did in hospitals, without ceremony. The night's chaos did not announce itself to the daylight staff. It lingered instead, pressed into corners, soaked into the walls, waiting to be noticed by people who knew how to read it. She remained, not because anyone asked her to, but because leaving too early invited questions. She stood at the sink near triage, washing her hands slowly. Soap, water, dry, again. A ritual more than hygiene. A trauma surgeon approached, voice lowered. "Police want to walk through what happened." "I know," she said. "You're not required to." "I am," she replied, "for my patients." He studied her. "You didn't lose a single one." "No," she said. "They didn't give me time to..." The surgeon exhaled and nodded once. Outside the ambulance bay, police vehicles still blocked the entrance. Officers moved in controlled patterns, checking angles she had already checked hours ago. Their posture said urgency had passed. Now came reconstruction. A detective entered the department, plain clothes under a jacket marked only by posture, and eyes that missed nothing. He did not approach her immediately. He watched first. She felt it. She always did. She finished charting and closed the final patient file. Time-stamped, clean. The detective waited until she stepped away from the workstation. "You're the nurse who took control," he said. She did not correct him. I coordinated care, she replied. He nodded. You named perimeter sectors. Yes. That's not standard hospital language. No, she agreed. Where did you learn it? She met his gaze evenly. Add a lot. He watched her longer this time. Do you know how many people froze tonight? He asked. Yes. And how many moved when you spoke? Yes. That's not luck. No. Silence stretched. He sighed. We ran the suspects. Disorganized cell. No confirmed leadership. But they weren't random. They rarely are, she said. You're not going to explain that either, are you? She shook her head. He rubbed his temple. Administration's going to ask. They can, she replied. They won't like your answers. They rarely do. He gave a faint, tired smile. I'll write that you acted instinctively under pressure. That would be accurate, she said. He left. The charge nurse found her near the lockers. They're saying you saved the department. She shrugged out of her blood-stained scrub top. The doors did their job. That's not. Patients lived, she said. That's the metric. The charge nurse hesitated. Are you staying? She paused. For the first time that night, the question cost her something. Yes, she said finally. For now. She changed into clean scrubs and returned to the floor. The day shift filtered in, unaware, unprepared for the residual tension. They sensed it anyway. Something had happened. Something serious. She corrected small things. Gave quiet guidance, redirected movement. No one challenged her. Administration arrived at 9:30. They came in suits, not scrubs. Voices controlled. Smiles strained. They asked for reports. She gave them charts. They asked for explanations. She gave them outcomes. They asked for authority. She gave them silence. One administrator leaned forward. You assumed control without clearance. I assumed responsibility, she replied. That's not how... No, she said. It's how people survive. The room went quiet. Another administrator cleared his throat. We're fortunate the police didn't arrive sooner, she asked. Yes, that ended the meeting. She returned to work. At noon, the hospital resumed its rhythm. At 1, the story hit internal channels. At 2, someone from compliance requested an interview. She declined. At 3, a man in a suit waited near the exit. He did not look like law enforcement. He looked like paperwork. May I walk with you? He asked. She nodded. They walked the corridor in silence. You used a protocol designation last night, he said eventually. One that hasn't been active in years. Yes, that protocol belongs to a federal interagency framework. Yes, it requires certification. Yes, you are currently licensed as a nurse. Yes, they stopped. He turned to face her. You were listed as inactive. She met his eyes. I was. You're not anymore. She closed her eyes briefly. Just once, is anyone else aware? She asked. Not yet. He handed her a card. No logo, just a number. They'll call, he said. They always do. And if I don't answer, they'll find you. She pocketed the card. She finished her shift, left through the same doors she always did. Outside, the air was clean. Sunlight washed the concrete where blood had dried hours earlier. She stood for a moment, letting the noise of the city replace the controlled chaos she understood. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She did not answer. She walked home. That night, she slept without dreaming. 2 weeks passed. The hospital returned to normal, mostly. Security protocols quietly changed. Doors reinforced. Radios upgraded. Training sessions added. Her name appeared in no memos. Her badge remained unchanged. But people watched her differently now. Doctors deferred without knowing why. Nurses mirrored her movements. Security listened when she spoke. Authority without title. One evening, a new nurse asked, "Were you scared that night?" She considered the question. "No," she said. "I was busy." The nurse nodded, satisfied. The call came at 2:14 a.m. She answered on the second ring. "We need you to consult," the voice said. "On what?" she asked. "Medical facility security assessment." She closed her eyes. "Send the files," she said. "I'll review. You're coming back." "I never left," she replied. She hung up. At her next shift, she noticed a new camera installed near the ambulance bay. It did not freeze. She adjusted a gurney 6 inches to the left. Old habits. She worked. The man who had fired the first shot pled guilty. The case never mentioned her. Internal reports credited effective interdepartmental cooperation. She did not correct them. On her last shift before taking leave, she stood at the medication cart and rotated a vial that someone had placed incorrectly. Label forward. Order restored. She clocked out, removed her badge, placed it in her locker. The hospital continued breathing. Slow, mechanical, alive. The hospital did not notice her absence at first. That was how she preferred it. Staffing absorbed the gap, schedules adjusted, names shifted on the board. Another nurse took her place at triage, careful, competent, unaware of the geometry she no longer inherited. For 3 days nothing happened. Then the files arrived, encrypted, structured, clinical. She opened them at her kitchen table, coffee cooling beside her untouched. Floor plans, security assessments, after-action summaries stripped of emotion, medical facilities, transportation hubs, places where civilians gathered because they believed themselves safe. She read without expression. Patterns emerged, not attacks, tests, pressure points mapped by failure, not force. She closed the files and leaned back, eyes on the ceiling. This was not escalation. This was preparation. The number rang again the next morning. She answered. "I'll consult remotely," she said before the voice could finish. A pause. "That may not be sufficient." "It will be," she replied. They agreed. She returned to the hospital 2 days later, not as staff, not officially. A visitor badge hung from her collar, blank where a name should have been. No one stopped her. The security desk nodded as she passed. She walked the corridors slowly, not to be seen but to see doors, hinges, sightlines, staff behavior. The hospital had changed. Not enough. She paused near the ambulance bay. The new camera feed was clean. No stutter, no delay. She watched it for a full minute. Satisfied, she moved on. In administration, a quiet meeting waited. No introductions, no titles, just questions. Could it happen again? Yes, she said. When? When people forget why protocols exist. What should we do? She looked at them. Train for silence, she said. Not chaos. They did not understand. They would later. She left without paperwork. Outside, rain fell lightly, blurring reflections on the pavement. She stood beneath the overhang, listening to the city breathe. Her phone vibrated, a message this time. They're backing off. For now, she typed a response. They always do. Until they don't, she put the phone away. Weeks passed. She did not return to active duty. She did not disappear. She existed in the space between, consulting quietly, advising anonymously, correcting from the margins. Hospitals adjusted, security improved, failures became less frequent. Her name remained absent. One evening, she received an email from the charge nurse. Just a thank you. No subject line. No questions. She did not reply. On her last visit, she walked to the emergency department one final time. Night shift again. The same fluorescent lights. The same hum. Different people. Same vulnerability. She stopped at the medication cart. A vial was out of place. She rotated it, label forward. She checked the crash cart seal. Intact. She adjusted a gurney 6 inches to the left. Someone watched her from the nurse's station. A young nurse. New. Curious. "Do you still work here?" the nurse asked. She smiled faintly. "Sometimes," she said. "Are you important?" She considered the question. "No," she replied. "Just prepared." She walked toward the exit. The ambulance bay doors opened normally. Outside, the air was cool, quiet. She stepped into it without looking back. The hospital continued, breathing, alive, and for now, safe.